Ladies and gentlemen, we'll start tonight with our workshop session. We'll start with resolutions. Resolution approving the residential water application. The application in our packet here. Let's see here. 9773 Route 60 Fredonia. Owner John Fitzgerald would like to water customer. Any questions or comments on that resolution? Okay, moving forward, resolution approving H&K services for the Fredonia Fire Hall change order. Ryan, if you're on, I'm still assuming that was from last week, and that's still the change order for the insulation for the pipes that ran outside the building, or is that something different?
Mayor, that's something different. When they were removing the coping on the back part of the building, they encountered several loose bricks underneath the coping that needed to be remortared and set in place. And that's what that change order is for.
Okay. Any questions or comments on that?
Just curious, how many change orders have we had so far with this project?
Two?
I believe that will be the third one.
And all these things weren't discovered before. I mean, wasn't that the point of the discovery that they did, that they were supposed to discover all the issues that came around? I mean, we paid a lot of money for a discovery, engineering discovery search on the building to go through it to make sure that they knew what they had to work with. And it seems like, as Kara said, there seems to be an awful lot of change orders. And how large of area is this that they're for $614 to?
I'm not sure how large the area was. It was several bricks underneath the coping. The coping is the metal cap that goes on the top of the wall, top of the bricks in the wall there. So when they removed that, in the process of removing the siding, they found that these bricks weren't set and were all loose.
Okay, so and then so it's if it's under the coping, is there? I mean, if it's a small area, is it something that our village workers could repair? I mean, or do we have to spend another $614 for this other company to come in? And I mean, it seems to be a lot of money again. Just constantly these change orders. I mean, I don't know if it's a small number of bricks that need to be reset. I don't know. I was just wondering about that.
That might be a Tony question. I don't know if any of our Department of Public Works workers are proficient in masonry. Tony, if you're on.
Yeah, I have one guy that's proficient, Ryan. If you hook up with me later tomorrow or whatever, we can discuss that possibility if that's what you wish.
Okay.
Well, they said there's a resolution on for tonight. I mean, should we hold off on this resolution then, or what?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Tony.
Ryan, how high up on the wall is that issue?
It's at the very top.
So they have a man lifter, I'm assuming?
H&K Services has their man lift there, yes.
All right, we'll talk later then. We'll try and see if we can't do something.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Thank you, Ryan. Resolution approving Tim Winters to fire lieutenant. We're going to be discussing that in executive session. Resolution approving Ben Syracuse to fire lieutenant provisionally. I believe we will also be discussing that in executive session.
Are you holding an executive session before the regular meeting then? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Because this is a...
Correct. We'll be holding a short executive session before the regular meeting starts. Under new business, DPW plow truck. Any questions or comments for Tony?
I just would, I mean, it's not on the, it's not a resolution for tonight, but after looking through the information, are we having a budget review at our next meeting? Did we talk about that?
Prior
Okay.
to the meeting, yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to, I'm curious to go through the budget again with Alyssa before we, buy some more, spend some more money on some things that I'm not saying they're not needed, but I just kind of want to know where we are. Mm-hmm.
Alyssa, oh, go ahead, Tony. Go ahead.
Yeah, just for informational purposes, board, and I appreciate your consideration. Originally, when I put forth
that appropriation request back before this budget was adopted, I believe I requested 225 to 235,000 for the truck. And believe it or not, even after COVID, and I had them rebid it twice, once they got back operationally, the current joint cost is 179,000.
Okay.
Significantly
Except
less.
there's nothing on it.
Great.
Okay.
Is that on a state bid, Tony?
Yes, all that equipment is state bid. They're on the purchase order numbers. Everything's outlaid very thoroughly on the purchase orders.
Okay.
Copies and everything.
And we currently have 3 or 4 other plows. One is new, right?
The one is new, that was ordered in 2019. We have 2 other plows. This one I'm replacing is 17 years old, and it's proven by invoices paid by Alyssa that the cost to keep this thing on the road over the last, long before I got here, are ridiculous. The other plow truck we have, the third plow truck, is only 4 years old. This plow truck's replacement will put the village in great stead for the next 10 years, 8 to 10 years.
Any other questions or anything for Tony?
I think we need to wait before any decision or resolution is considered until after the budget review.
And I'm fine with that too, I understand thoroughly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
You're welcome.
The water filtration plant new chlorination system. Any questions for Chris Sharma?
Isn't that under old business? I mean, that was something that was initiated quite some time ago.
Yes, it was.
That's not necessarily new business because, I mean, the issue happened,
Not a big deal. We can put that under old business and discuss under old business. Not a big deal.
I know, I'm just saying, because your next section of business would be then old business, unless there's some new business, but.
Any other new business?
I don't know if you want to consider this new business. I was happened to be reviewing some invoices today, and I noticed that we've been paying an interpreter in our court. Now that the interpreter doesn't seem to be a consistent one, it seems to be that anytime that the court's in session, that we're paying a $200 per visit for an interpreter. I asked Alyssa to kind of look into it for me today. I don't know if she's looked into it or if anyone knows the reason behind this, and is this something that we should be notified of? It is an expense, and I don't know if we're all aware that we're paying for an interpreter in our court.
Is it for Spanish speakers?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe that is a requirement. I'm not sure why they're there every time, but, or what service they're using, because there are other services. And if we advertise that, it may be able to.
I'm just curious. I'm not assigned to the courts, so I don't know how that all works. I don't know if that comes out of, a budget line through the court. I don't know if that's something we need to approve. I'm just asking questions. I noticed the invoice today. I approved the invoice, but it's been an ongoing thing that's been popping up in our invoicing, so I just wanted to ask.
It's probably
That
part of
might
the
be a-
budget.
That might be a question for Judge Siri and Justice Beetson and/or Christine would be able to maybe give us some insight on that as well. I'm not sure of that is.
Okay.
I think if they ask ahead of time if an interpreter is needed when they're scheduling a court date, that they could control and not just have one there just in case. But we could
Well, it's an expense on our end, and
Yeah.
I don't know, Jim, if you're familiar with any of this?
I thought that's what they did. I thought if we would request the interpreter ahead of time, but I don't know what the reasoning otherwise would be.
Well, I know
The
that,
invoices are assigned to certain people, so it's not there every time, but it has been frequently lately.
Well, and maybe it's needed then. You know?
well, I'm sure it's needed, and I'm not questioning the service, I'm just questioning the
cost.
the cost,
Yeah.
and is that something that we absorbed in our budget? Is that something that's part of the court budget? I mean, that's something I would like to, address with the board and our treasurer.
I would think it would be part of the court budget, but that's what.
Yes, it's been going against the court budget.
Okay. So again, when we go to take a budget review, maybe we can take an analysis of roughly how many times this is being used and make sure we cover that expense?
Okay.
Thank you.
Alrighty, thanks. Trustee Britz, is there any other new business? Okay. We'll move to old business. Chris, if you could explain the chlorination system and where we're at with that moving forward?
I'm sure, Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
All right, well, we put this, Alyssa and I sat and tried to find the money for this project. This is the, I guess, remediation of the chemical emergency, chlorine emergency we had back in March. A couple weeks after that, we sat down and, with the health department's guidance to order a chlorine hypochlorite system that actually uses pellets instead of the gaseous chlorine. Our gaseous system is in need of an overhaul, and we decided it's too dangerous to even deal with anymore, and they have safer alternatives. So this is the safer alternative that's been used quite frequently since they came on into the market a couple of years ago. A lot of plants are doing it. Closest one to us right now is Canandaigua, and I've spoke to the gentleman out there, and they're satisfied with it. And it's a lot safer. It's less maintenance. The capital cost is, of course, a little bit, but the pounds per day of chemical that we'll be using will actually be a little bit less. So over the year, our chlorine gas budget will be a little bit lower, or the price for the chlorine will be a little bit lower. We're estimating anyway. I mean, it's going to be close, but it should be lower actually for the annual budget for the chemicals for that chemical anyway. And so we've got a pretty good sum there, 67,000, almost 68 grand. Talking with Alyssa, there's some projects for many other reasons other than COVID, and we've got about 400 other things going on. That we moved the fixing of the roof. We did some patching. This is something we do every couple of years. I've been here a few years now. We patched it. It needs a little bit better than a patch, some repairs, but that was in the capital budget along with a couple other things. Alyssa, I sent her the list. I can't remember right offhand. I don't have it in front of me. There was a couple other items as well that we could, if it would please the board. I mean, it would please us actually if we could use that money to get this project done ASAP. I say we've been having some chlorine issues here recently again, and it's just we don't need that. We don't need an emergency like we had last time, and it's totally out of our hands. It's equipment that's ancient. And
Chris, did I dream it, or did you tell us that the chlorinator's already been purchased and this is the cost to install it?
Yes, the chlorinator itself, the system itself has, there's some pellet feeders and storage containers and stuff for the solution that gets made. This extra money here now is for the actual plumbing and stuff that goes along with it. There's a couple of, to fit it to our plant, it needs a couple of feed pumps and some drum scales. These are things that the health department wanted in there. And there's an RPZ with an air gap and strainer. These are pretty costly items. And then along with a bunch of additional hoses and piping and stuff that the plumbers, that these guys here will be needing for the project. So that's where all this money came up. And then there's a couple of holes in the wall that are pretty significant. They're from days gone by from other ventilation systems that we've had in that chlorine room, and the health department determined that, you know, this whole project's not going to work unless we brick that all up, and that was the additional almost $5,000. We're going to be replacing it with the same.
Did this, Chris, did this have any, this chlorination system, did that have any kind of impact on what, or contribution to the water emergency at all, if it's not working properly?
Brick and mortar.
I don't know if you heard me.
Yeah, I mean, I heard you. The water emergency as in?
You know, the one in September, the one that happened in September, because you said that there was an issue way back, initially in April, and then the system was purchased, the new system, which actually I was kind of led to believe that this was not a very expensive system to switch over to, and I think that the cost of the $11,000 system itself wasn't all that bad. But now I say we're asked for a very large sum to install this system. I didn't realize this was that much. But as far as the contribution to the possible contribution to the water emergency that happened in September, this, like I said, this happened way back in March, way back in March, and then it was the new system was purchased, but nothing was done until now. I realized that you had a lot going on, but was it possible that, and we did hire the engineering company to go through, that was, I think that was like $6,000 there, that was design the system, but it seems to be an awfully long time since the initial issue and then the need to get it done. Here we are in November, and the first, I see that there was a communication to the mayor November 13th that I don't believe anybody else got, describing these costs and things that need to be done.
So your question is
did it have a contribution to the
no, it didn't.
Emergency, and could have this been handled sooner? I'm a little bit perplexed on why it's taken till November to have somebody do this system, and they could have been doing this early on.
Yeah, we've been the project still, it's been going on. We did some. I seeked out a couple of different contractors who were going to do it, and then they got a little bit busy during the pandemic here, and then so I moved on from them. Diefenbach System, he's our normal emergency plumber kind of guy we have here.
Mm-hmm.
And probably around, I don't know, May or June, he decided he's just not gonna be able to do it. So that's when we got a hold of Greenman Peterson with Gus Maas to actually do the drawings and the approvals to the health department. And then it took a little while for the health department to approve it. And then, of course, all the rest of the stuff was going on. So we've been just being extra careful with it. And it didn't lapse. We didn't lapse any chlorination at all. You know what I mean? It didn't, if that's your question about the boiler, I mean, it had nothing. It worked fine through the boiler, and it's working fine right now. But it's a ton of maintenance, and we really got to keep an eye on it. And if something cracks in there, we're gonna have the same emergency we had before, and I'd hate for one guy to be here, and luckily there was two of us here at that time to make a decision to get out of here, because we don't do emergency, emergency closures on a fracture on the tank or lines or anything like that, so. And there's no automatic shut off or anything either, so it's, alarm goes off in the other room and we get out of here and call the fire department. And that, unfortunately, that's only happened once since I've been here, and the health department or the emergency services came down and everything worked out fine, and everybody, we had one employee that got a little gassed, but
Yeah,
was
yeah, I
checked and
understand.
everything.
I guess that was the purpose of and intent to look to the new system, and that was well described by you back in March, and that's why I see the board had approved the $6,000 to have the engineering study done, and then you did purchase the equipment. But like I said, it's just it is perplexing that it's taken till November to now move forward with this. If it was that much of a need back in March, there seems to be an awful lot of issues like this. So I guess, but I know that we have to get it done clearly. This is a quite large sum of money. It would have been nice to have this investigated about the funding for this. And because now you're wanting to forego some other repairs that were supposed to be made this year, and you're going to forego those to try to get this installed when we should have been looking at how to fund it much earlier than now. So I don't know where this issue is coming from. I don't think that necessarily it's you, Chris. I think that there's another issue here. But anyhow,
I don't know what issues you're talking about, Trustee Linden. This is a serious thing to take care of. It's a safety issue. I'm not sure why it's taken this long, but I know there's been tons of things going on at the water treatment plant with our water issues. You spoke of an email that was sent to me on November 16th, and I'm not sure.
November 13th.
Was it addressed to the board as well, or just myself?
No, it was just addressed to you.
And how did you receive this? How did you receive this email, Trustee Linden?
I was investigating it today, and
did you receive this email?
I received this from I had some investigation done through our.
Hey, how did you receive this email? Very simple question.
Through our treasurer, Doug.
Okay, thank you. There's no cover up here, Jim. I'm not sure what you're trying to. This had nothing to do with our water emergency. This was a separate issue.
It'd be nice to know this.
Okay, I'm not, Jim. Trustee Linden, I did not interrupt you. Don't interrupt me, please. Thank you. I appreciate that. So let's move on, okay? Trustee Chris Surma, if there's nothing more on that, we'll move forward. Thank you. Old business, water agreement between SUNY Fredonia and the village. Attorney Guard is on. We can't see him. Attorney Guard, Chip, is there any way we could have him speak?
Yes, I'm here, Mayor.
Okay.
I'm just coming up as the Village Hall picture, that's all.
Okay, that's where you are. Okay, thank you. Our board received the different revisions and so forth, correct? And we're pretty close to getting that completed?
Yes, that's correct. I'd like to address that in the executive session.
Okay, thank you.
There, as far as the water contract, I want for the SUNY there, I'm not too sure if there was a good understanding of the cost of water to the village residents that would then be applied directly to the contract for SUNY. Because there's a base fee on each village residence that's automatically put on the quarterly bill that is not represented on the cost to the college. So I think that we need to address that because our cost, even though it states that our our cost residents are $4.80 per thousand. When you add that other cost in there, which is a cost applies to the actual cost of water, it brings up to about $6 per thousand. You can verify that with our treasurer, Alyssa. She has researched that. So when we're discussing contracts for that, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, Jim, I didn't mean to interrupt.
When we're discussing water costs as relation to the water cost to the village residents and how it applies to some other contracts, then you have to include that. So you have to balance that out to reflect that actual cost, because otherwise it's not actual cost. They'd be receiving it for less than the village residents. And that's with all contracts. And actually, I'm not necessarily, except for maybe because it's with the college, with the university, the state, as far as the cost of water to a location that is within the village. I mean, it should be the same as everybody else. I don't even know necessarily why we even have to have a separate contract, except for suppose maybe it's the state. Because I mean, nobody else has, businesses have separate contracts that exist within the village. But anyhow, that being said, I'm going to ask the rest of the board to consider those thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments on the water agreement concerning Fredonia the village, also discussed in executive session? Oh, good. North County Water District contract terms. Attorney Guard, is that something else that we were going to be discussing in executive session, or we discuss here?
Well, Mayor, we can discuss it here. I'm just waiting for some direction from the board in terms of whether they want to go forward on the basis that it was offered to us. At the last meeting, there was some discussion, I believe it was between Trustee Linden and Trustee Bashaw, regarding the rates and the lowering of the emergency water rates from the 175% to the 100%. Additionally, the other issue, like I've said, the contract with the city of Dunkirk. That really isn't executive session material. If the board wants to discuss it and tell me which way they'd like me to go.
I believe that we had come to an agreement on everything except the point in which there were some concerns in Section 8 of that contract that indicated that it made all other contracts null and void, and I think the North County Water District addressed that with the emails from Kathy Tampio saying, just create the wordage. And I think I've asked that a couple of times. It's a very simple wordage that just says they don't nullify or override any other contracts that we have. They did explain why the city of Dunkirk or the mayor was taken out of that contract, and I thought that that was a reasonable and acceptable explanation. And I think that the rate, dropping it to the 100% was adequate, and I think we all agreed to that. I'm not sure what the delay is, except for the wordage, and I've emailed you, Attorney Guard, asking that you prepare that wordage to send it to Attorney Abdallah in the county so that they can approve that final section. It's the only thing I think holding this up.
Is that the census of the entire board?
I'll agree.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that what you needed then, Attorney Guard, to move forward with that?
Yes, Mayor. I just didn't believe that we had that consensus last time. I did get an email from Trustee Bashaw last Saturday night, but I didn't think that the entire board was on board with that. So I will be happy to take care of that now.
Thank you. Is there any other old business?
We touched base a little bit about the fire department, where we're standing and how long do you think that project will be completed. The other one I want to ask about is how is the, I know we had some issues down at the wastewater treatment plant regarding a voltage investigation. I see that we've gotten a change order. Has there been any updates to that?
Would you like to hear first, fire department?
Yes, sir. That'd be fine.
Okay, Ryan, Chief Walker.
As far as the construction at the fire department project, as the weather's turning here, Seneca Steel is starting to, they were supposed to resume today, but did not with the rain. They're out of COVID and they'll be starting to set the panels again here shortly. During the last week or so, they did the mold remediation on the inside of the building up in the upper portion of the hose tower. Steel doors are here. Whether they're going to complete on time or not, are going to have to make arrangements to come back in the spring to paint. I'm unsure of at this time, but we have another meeting scheduled for Wednesday of this week.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Trustee Fritz?
Yeah, I just wanted to get an update for the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Operator Rayner, are you on there? I believe if you could answer the questions as where we're at with the voltage jumps there.
Sure, Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm using my wife's computer, so I'm up as her name. So I have technical difficulties with my laptop. So right now, Becca's had a data logger on the main panel. That's been tabulating data on the voltage on the one side of the panel, and that was just the one side data was sent off to Beck today. They took a USB fob with the data, and he's going to review that. So they ended up putting the data logger on the other side of the power panel, and they're going to monitor that side for 2 weeks. So that's where that's at right now. We're monitoring the voltage coming out of the main panel. When it comes out of the main panel, it splits. It goes to the control building, and it goes to the digester building.
Thank you. Anything else, Trustee Ritz?
No, I just wanted to make sure that we were following up with it and where we stood on those two issues. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir.
Any other old business?
I had a question, and I think it's under old. It's in regard to the emails. Doug, you forwarded those to us today about the EFC, Jeff Smith's
Yes,
emails back and forth. There were a couple of questions that I had in regard to that. It seems that they are now proposing, and they're asking for an answer, that we resubmit or refinance, if you will, a bond resolution that could include some of the change order costs to us. They've also seemed to include things like work on the spillway and repair to the spillway. They talked about including the 12-inch water line between the city of Dunkirk and the village, as well as the 2 million gallon water tank, storage water tank. First of all, they're asking for an answer about that in a couple of weeks. And there are things that we haven't, to my knowledge, have not talked about or come to an agreement on, other than the change orders. Do we anticipate talking about them or making some sort of decision, or he's asked for the next couple of weeks to have a response? And
yeah, I believe has the village board decided how they want to handle the budget coverages for the existing water treatment plant and pump station has incurred the budget overages.
Right.
Both places have incurred. I think there may be more as well. But what we're trying to do here is to figure out a funding, and between Jeff Smith, Orlissa, and Paul Snyder from the health department, we're working on emergency funding with the EFC to put those into the project there to receive emergency grant funding for that.
which part of those things, Doug, are we considering under emergency? The 12-inch line?
Yes, everything that's right there. If we could include all that, and if EFC would okay that and fund that, that would be something that we would try to do.
Well, I think we probably should have a discussion in regard to, because I, for one, am not in favor of a 2 million gallon storage water tank, and the cost of maintaining it and having it when we are when we've agreed to do the interconnect with the North County Water District for emergency purposes, it really kind of negates the need for, if we have that emergency backup with North County Water District, it kind of negates the need for a 2 million gallon tank, I think. And I think money like that could be spent in other places. I was a little surprised to see that although they're asking for an answer, there haven't been any costs associated with like the work on the spillway or the 12-inch line or even the storage tank. There aren't any costs associated with that. When would those costs come to us so that a decision could be made as to whether or not we could refinance those in a resolution? When would we get those?
Tony, I know the engineering company has been working on those actual figures. And to start out with your first question of what was needed and what was suggested for interconnects and water, redundant water supply and water storage, those were suggestions from the Hill Engineering, or whatever they are now. I can't remember off. And our chief operator Surma and our superintendent of public works Gino.
Right.
If you could possibly an update on when we could see some figures that the board could kind of actually dig into and look through.
The board has already received all this information as of last year, prior to 2020. Mr. Sidoti, Adam, Mayor Landis, Doug, I've already reviewed them with you.
Yep.
The board member Bashaw, you're right to think that the interconnect with the North County Water District might be sufficient, but it's not. Randy Woodbury from the City of Dunkirk, Clark Patterson Lee, and our engineers, GPI/Hill Engineering, even when they build that new 500,000 gallon tank on Miller Road, by CPL standards and figures, that tank will need to supply 350,000 gallons a day to the new customers they're providing. Between 150,000 and 350,000. So in an emergency situation, we can only rely on that emergency feed for roughly 1/2 to 2/3 of our daily needs. The Board of Health, and Chris can back me up on this, has for years written the village up for the lack of water storage. We only have a 1 million gallon tank on Webster Road. If we had, or the village had a larger storage capacity, when we quadruple our capacity in Dunkirk 10 years ago, we would not have probably had a boil water emergency in Fredonia like we did this year. So Paul Snyder, Hill Engineering/GPI, they re-updated their original design and cost estimates. It's all been forwarded to you, the board members, and the mayor. And again, it's great to hook up with the North County Water District. I'm all for that, but it's not going to be sufficient if we lose Webster Road tank due to a major water.
If there's an issue with the turbidity, like there was the same kind of issue, if we're having another tank sitting there, is that not usable? Just like you would have to boil water regardless, because the water going into the tank is fouled just like every other, just like before. Our million gallon tank on Webster Road didn't stop us from having to use the boil water order because the water the turbidity was off. So I don't know where is another large water tank and the cost associated would change that.
Chris Sherman, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, if I could, Jim, if we had a couple extra million gallons at that time, we could have slowed the plant down we were basically feeding the village directly from our clear well at that time. And like I say, we only had one little reading over the limit. And we could have slowed the plant down at that time and used the clean water that was already stored in the tanks. That's what it's there for, you know.
But you already had the boil water order from the county claiming that you had to boil water. So I don't know how that would slow anything down. I mean,
no, we would have saw it we did see it happening. 3-4 weeks, our numbers were getting a little higher, and when it got to be close to the limit, we had no recourse to other than to call the health department and let them know we had a.
Isn't that the process that we would use by supplementing? So you would have supplemented by using our current water tank, in addition to the newly formed east and west connections, and also the upgraded Vineyard Drive connection with the city of Dunkirk. Those combined, certainly, we're far above what we had in the last, decades of this supply. We're far above that with these upgrades and changes. I don't know how we're expected to believe that an additional 2 million gallon tank is needed.
Yeah, I don't know about believing or whatever, but the health department basically started this ball rolling years ago just because of fire service and the insurance on the fire service, that the village didn't have enough. If there was a major fires, the village would not have enough water. And then back then they actually did have the pump station kind of working, and they were still, and there's documents from the health department and Paul that the extra storage tank is recommended for that reason, just specifically. And then, like I say, we could have slowed down. If you recall, right before the boil order, the few weeks before that, we had some major leaks. And when we have major leaks, we have to run this place to maximum capacity, which at the time lowers the treatment efficiency during that summer period when we had the algae bloom at the same exact time. And we couldn't polish, per se, the water to the great specs that we normally have down here, like we do right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that brings into another thought. I mean, we went through, when you brought up water leaks, we hired a company a year ago to go through and detect the water leaks. We really reduced our need for finished water significantly by having a tremendous number of water leaks repaired. And I'm sure that would come into play on that formula that they were looking at prior to that.
Chris, how long does the water in a storage tank, how long is it good for before you have to turn it over or treat it differently, or how long can it sit there?
Well, it depends on the temperature outside.
Okay.
And the health department wants us to roll it over at least every 3 days. So
okay.
And that's based on the chlorine residual that's still in the tank, because it decreases obviously with the temperature.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it depends on the usage at the time and how swift we're depleting it.
Chris,
so,
let me ask you this: out of the 3 projects that are kind of proposed to be included in this resolution, that would be repair and maintenance to the spillway, connection to it with a 12-inch line to the city of Dunkirk, and a $2 million, 2 million gallon storage tank. In the order, which would you place first, second, and third in importance to you?
Well, I would have to say they're all a tie, because I hate to be that way, but I mean, the emergency, like right now, the rain and the spillway is roaring. I mean, with what we got tonight, the creek is roaring.
Yep.
That sucker, I'm not going to be an emergency guy or anything, but I'm not an engineer, and they've told us, and everybody seen the the damage up there and from years of, I don't want to say neglect, but just years of use, you know? And I mean, if
you had money,
nice
if you had money to do just one, which would you do?
Good question. Probably that one.
Yep.
Probably that one, to tell you the truth. I mean, that could wipe out the whole village. I think they'd rather that happen than have no water in their house.
I mean, we've been cited many years for having a dangerous dam. That's a must. That's a must do.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought that the spillway would be probably the first one, and in light of the fact that we have created the new north end, the water district with the North County water districts on both ends of the village, and the pump station on Vineyard Drive, we seem to be in better shape than we have been for quite some time. I would think the spillway would probably be the first thing we tackled.
Yeah, well, not yet. Actually, nothing's completed.
Right.
Trustee Bashaw, the reason that these are all being brought up in conversation is because I'm investigating with Congressman Reed's office for USDA grants and loans for all these different kinds of projects. And speaking to the representative from Congressman Reed's office, and we're kind of on the brink right now of being able to be eligible for it because it's under 10,000, community needs under 10,000 people, and we're a hair of skosh above that right now in the estimate with the 2020 census. But speaking to the representative, grouping all these into one big project, all these projects into one project, and trying to see what kind of grant funding USDA and to get from the speaking to Paul Snyder from the health department. When you have these situations, a lot of the different communities around our county have received numerous USDA grants, and they've been eligible for them for all these different kinds of projects. Right now, all I know is this past year with our water issues and in the past couple of years with all our water main breaks and our discolored water, our residents have been living many decades with this problem. We have a chance now to investigate this and move forward and possibly get all these things done at once, possibly with grant funding. I will give the board more information as I get it here, but this is just kind of in the preliminary stages of different things. To say for one of us to say that we think that, we don't need a 2 million gallon storage tank, that's not really, we don't have that expertise. And we've been leaving it up to the engineering of companies of GPI and so forth, and our chief water operator, Surma, and Superintendent Cugino to figure these things out. These have been thought about in previous years, the secondary interconnect up Central Avenue. I believe, like Chris Surma just said, all these there's not one that weighs heavily above another. They are all very important. Like Trustee Christina said, that's our spillway and our reservoir. The county health department has been on the village of Fredonia for years and years to get that taken care of. We've had engineering studies in the past few years that have placed different projects in order, and that's one of them. Right now, we're just investigating different funding sources, and I just believe that all these are top priority for all our residents to receive clean water and to have a redundant water source. If we had both interconnects, large interconnects, 212 inches coming from Dunkirk, if there was a problem with the water treatment plant again, the water treatment plant could be isolated and we could have full water supply from the city of Dunkirk.
Right. Doug, I'm sorry. All right.
There's certain different things that I'm looking at, but I know our residents have been having major water issues for years. It's been kicked down the road. It's been pushed down the road. And I'm just looking to take care of this right now.
Well, and I absolutely understand that. However, I also think that we need to take into consideration that we need to remain financially viable while we do it, and that if this is in the form of a grant, I get that. If it's in form of bond resolution and there are figures that still have to be figured out, I think that there needs to be some more discussion. But I agree that if we can get them all done, that would be great in the form of grant money. But I do think we need to remain financially viable and not put ourselves in such debt and put it, and do it a little bit at a time and be dedicated to doing it. I understand that all of the experts have given their opinion, and the decision is still ours on behalf of the village. So I think that when we seek information like I'm trying to do right now, it's important for us to make an educated decision and still keep the finances in mind. If we have to prioritize them, I think that that's important to get that information. And Tony, I appreciate your information, and I think what you're saying is that those figures were provided before I came on, and if you could send those to me again, I'd really appreciate it, or someone, Anne Marie, perhaps you have them, but they must have been disseminated before I was appointed in January, and I would appreciate seeing those figures again. So thank you very much.
Yeah,
we will try getting.
Mayor,
Yes,
Mayor, forgive me.
Go ahead, Tony.
I don't mean to cut you off. You got a full binder report from GPI Engineering right after you got in regarding the study for the tank as well as the interconnect from Dunkirk. All right, you've got that. I've got one. And I want to say something else, Ms. Bashaw, that believe it or not, and I think I've mentioned this to you people before, in the 1990s, Hill Engineering and the city of Dunkirk, for free, did a joint comprehensive study of these same things we're still talking about in 2020. They didn't charge the village, they didn't charge the city. So when we brought in GPI through your council, your board resolution to review it again for probably the fourth time for both municipalities, the cost estimates roughly are this. I'm going from memory. If you went with a 1 million gallon storage tank on Fredonia Stockton Road, it would be approximately 1.5 million. If you went for a 2 million gallon tank, it would be approximately 2.5 million. The interconnect up Central Avenue from the new Willowbrook tank, the city of Dunkirk, and I was there. I didn't build it, we did it. It was obviously a joint effort. We went from 500,000 gallons to 2 million. And my thought back then with Hill Engineering, who was a village, city attorney then, we knew, because we had been in dialogue with Mayor Keefe and the former boards, we were going to be able to provide you with tons of water in an emergency up Central Avenue on a new 12-inch connect. The Vineyard Drive booster station, which is finally being rebuilt, is not done yet, but your point's well taken. Between that interconnect and even the new interconnects for the North County Water District, Randy Woodbury, the city of Dunkirk DPW director, is a brilliant engineer, and we've worked for 15 years on these projects. He and I agree. Those alone, Vineyard Drive and North County Water District, the new tie-ins, are not sufficient, and Paul Snyder agrees, to provide the village of Fredonia enough daily water supply in an emergency. If we lost the tank, whatever.
Tony, would it be if the 12-inch connect was up Central Avenue? Would it be sufficient then?
Oh my God, it would be so much better, because then we could pull off our 4 million gallon tank right up Willowbrook Avenue. It's a very short distance to run.
Right.
Willowbrook Avenue, Central Avenue, under the three-way bridge, boom. Tie into our 12-inch main right near the plaza entrance.
And would it be sufficient to provide the entire village with water with those three entities? The North County?
Yes.
It would. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And I can't thank you enough for considering all this. It's been very frustrating for a lot of us that have been around for 15, 20 years, but, and I get the money. I mean, we always got the money.
What was the cost on that, Tony?
It depends on the size of the tank.
For the interconnect up Central, the last estimate, I believe, was 3 or 4 million. I don't have the paperwork in front of me, but but there again, Paul Snyder and all of them are willing to consider it as an emergency.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
that's where we're kind of going with, and right now we're still under. I extended the state of emergency for the water issue to continue to seek emergency funding, and it's more advantageous and when you are under a state of emergency to receive that. And I've gotten, like Tony said, Paul Snyder from the health department has given his assurance that he would assist us in all ways to get this moving forward with emergency funding. So that's where we're at right now. I mean, we've kicked this down, or different administrations have kicked this down the road for way far too long. We've had some serious issues this year. And one way or another, we need to move forward on infrastructure, whether it's everything or partial or whatever, and move forward on some of this in one way or another, moving forward.
And for what Eva Dunn, I agree with Eva Dunn. We don't need to put the village too far in debt on this right now. Right, because right from what I see from this proposal and from the EFC of what I've read here so far is we're only being asked to bond to this. There isn't any guarantee of grants or anything like that. So we're only being addressed as bonding issues. And this is a large amount of money for all these projects, and in addition to what needs to be done. So I think we have to address our needs first, direct needs first. If it's great if we could get grants. Yes, of course you got to look into grants, and if that could come through. But we can't just go ahead and bond something and hope that in hopes of getting a grant. I think we need to be assured of a grant funding before we go ahead and approve these other additional projects before the essential needs.
Trustee Linden, question.
Mm-hmm.
You could always look at also the avenue of BANs, bond anticipation notes. If the board deemed it imperative to get going, you could roll them over for 5 years in a row before you have to commit them to long-term debt. Bonding, bans don't go against your bonding rating.
It still costs if you don't get the grant. That if you still have to come up with the funds.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just saying that's an alternative thought.
Yeah, I understand that, Tony. Thank you, though.
Okay. My thought is finally is, again, this has been kicked down the road. These are projects I realize one way or another have to be paid for, and I would love to have them be paid for grants. I would think that our residents would understand if we would have to bond some or partial or all or none, that these are the direction we need to move forward with our infrastructure.
Well, it's interesting because we're being asked to reduce our income revenues significantly in some areas, but we're being asked to expend huge amounts of money in other areas. So I find that interesting.
Well, Jim, this is something that's been kicked down the road. We can continue to kick it down the road if the board would like. That would be fine. Or we can start acting on it. That's totally up to the board. You're absolutely correct.
Things been kicked down the road for a long time, Doug, and there's some since this year that have been kicked down the road into next year, and I didn't agree with that either. But it's funny how it happened. So,
all right, let's move forward then, Trustee Linden. Any other old business? I have one thing, Tony. If you could address our discolored water with what has happened within the last 2 or 3 weeks and where we are currently and moving forward, please.
Absolutely. If you go back to March when COVID hit, and unfortunately the state of New York guidelines with the village directed me to deem all my employees as non-essential, believe it or not. For 4 months, I had no employees working. I was there every day myself. When I needed somebody in emergency, I could call them in. But it was very, very strenuous, and we didn't get to do our spring flushing that we normally do. And then, of course, we had 3 major water breaks on 12-inch mains, plus 5 or 6 other breaks on smaller mains. When I was finally able to bring my people back at the end of May, we got busy on all the many things we needed to get caught up on: brush collection, street paving, patching, et cetera, et cetera. And it's been very frustrating for me and Chris. And then we got hit with the boil water order And Chris and I and Jerry Falco and the crew pretty much lived at the plant for 2.5 months. And all of you helped out. It was it's a very tough time. Bottom line is, you can't go over a year and a half without doing a full flush of the village and not expect problems. So we have literally been doing spot flushing to remediate people's concerns on a daily basis for the last month. And finally, now that things are stabilized at the plant, construction is shut down for the winter there. Chris and the plant are running beautifully because Chris is really a great master at that plant. We started flushing last night on third shift. I've got guys out right now on second shift, 3 to 11 flushing, and we're going to finally accomplish a full village-wide flushing over the next 2 weeks. I apologize to the village residents. I feel very badly that we've all gone through this. They don't deserve it. I own it, and I just, we can only do so much with everything else. I lost 4 months of having manpower at my side.
Thank you, Tony. Well, and
I just want to say thank you, Tony. I talked to Jen, I talked to Casey, and because I've had a lot of people up in my neighborhood have been, worried about or concerned about or talking about or complaining about the water as they, they have the right to do if it's discolored. But I just want to thank you because anytime that I've texted or emailed or called, someone has been right on it right away, even though the problem has been continuing. But I just want to thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
For that.
In your neighborhood,
and people have colored water.
Pardon me?
I can't hear you, Tony. I just wondered if people have a concern with their water, who should they call? Who should they contact? Should they call the DPW? Should they call the village hall? Should they call the mayor? Like, people aren't really sure what to do, I think, or who to call. So what would you suggest they do?
Can you hear me, Kara?
I can now, yes.
Okay. Absolutely. Call my office first. If they don't get me or we're not in operational normal hours, call the police department.
Okay.
The police department call me on my cell phone all the time.
Okay.
But your neighborhood, I've been there. I mean, literally, we probably flushed that whole Heights area and downstream from there a dozen times over the last 3 weeks. And it's amazing because normally what we're seeing is once we open a hydrant and clear the barrel, just the water's been sitting in the vertical position of the hydrant, it clears up very quickly. Mm-hmm. I think what's happening is, and I've talked to many people on the phone, once you get dirty water in any of our homes, like even mine here in Dunkirk, I mean, flush your toilet 3 or 4 times. Sediment settles in your basin. Crack a faucet for 4 or 5 minutes. Not blast it, just trickle it. Mm-hmm. It's a temporary remedial fix. I again apologize to all the village residents. I mean, it's not my fault, but I'll take the ownership on it. It's been very, very frustrating, challenging year. And we're working to remediate this now. And Chris and the plant and my guys, we're interwoven and speak multiple times a day, and we're going to get this right for everybody.
Thank you, Tony. And during this process of you flushing throughout the next couple of weeks, there might still be more turbidity in people's lines, so please expect that as well.
Yeah, so that went out in the press release last Wednesday.
Yep, that was in the paper. I did that. So, yeah, so if we could just ask our village residents for another couple of weeks more of patience. We are working on getting it fully flushed. Still may see some cloudy water, but it will be going shortly. Thank you, Tony.
And I want to say one more thing, Mayor. The water's totally safe to drink. Yes, I get the coloration issue, the turbidity and all. The water coming out of the plant is the most pristine I've seen it in my 2.5 years here. It's what's in the system downstream. And the Board of Health is thoroughly impressed with what Chris has done at that plant since the last 4 months of upgrades.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tony. Anybody else have any other comments?
I wish to echo what Kara had said regarding, thanking Tony and the crew down there. I also have a couple of complaints that I've passed on to the DPW, and they responded within minutes. So again, I want to thank the crew down there for doing a great job and responding to the needs of the residents.
You know what? That means a lot to me, all of you. Thank you so much, because my guys put their heart and soul in this, and we all feel it. But thank you so much.
Thank you again, Tony, and thank you to our residents for having the patience here. I've fielded many calls the last 3 weeks here, and our residents have been very kind and understanding when the circumstances have been explained to them. So I appreciate that from our residents as well. Thank you, Tony. Any other old business? I know we need to go into executive session, but I'll open up the regular board meeting, and then I'll ask for a motion to go into executive session at that time. So at this time, could we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
You sent me a text?
I think I need to read this first part here, correct, Attorney Guard? I'll read the first part where we open it up, and then I'll ask for a motion.
Yes, that's correct, Mayor.
Okay. At a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia, duly called and held on the 30th day of November 2020 at 6:40 p.m. via video conferencing in Fredonia, New York, and public notice of the time and place of this meeting has been given to the news media and conspicuously posted in one or more designated public locations in accordance with Section 104 of the Open Meetings Law. At this time, I will ask for a motion to enter into executive session for contractual and litigation matters.
I'll second the motion.
For the motion in a second, Trustee Christina,
Yes.
Trustee Linden,
Aye.
Trustee Britz,
Yes.
Trustee Bashaw.
Yes.
Thank you. And Chip, right now, Attorney Guard, what department heads, or if any, would you like to be included in the?
Village clerk at netsync.net, no later than 4 p.m., Monday, November 30th, 2020. Statements will be read during the public portion of the video conference. I will ask that the comments refrain from remarks that are in poor taste, slanderous, or not germane to any action taken or contemplated by the board. I did not receive any emails.
Okay, that being said, we'll close the public portion. I'll start my report. First of all, I'd like to thank our community for continuing to practice safe COVID policies. It's showing because our numbers are much lower here in our county than surrounding counties. We're keeping out of the yellow and red microzone. So please continue to practice those and not have any large gatherings of sorts. Also, I welcomed 2 new businesses to Fredonia since the last meeting. First one was Sanford Sales, located at 276 West Main Street. It's a new antique store with lots of collectibles and unique items for sale. A business that was here for a while that we just haven't officially welcomed was 64 in the Rocks. Senator George Borrello joined me in welcoming this new restaurant to Fredonia. It's been open for a few months so far, and we're happy to welcome them on Small Business Saturday. Small Business Saturday was this past Saturday. My wife and I visited 19 small businesses in Fredonia during Saturday and met some different shop owners and some we knew very well. See how they were doing under this new COVID environment. Made several purchases along the way and learned about a few businesses we had not been to before. The goal was to promote Fredonia and remind people to shop at our many small businesses to help them continue to stay open during these very trying times. Help promote customers to visit our local businesses. I wonder if the trustees would lift the parking meter fees for the month of December. I believe it would serve our local small businesses well if our trustees would consider this proposal. I would consider further discussion after my
I've been wanting to take
during the trustees report. So that's something I think that if I know it's a loss of revenues, but if it could promote small businesses, I think it's a win situation there. I want to congratulate the 1891 Fredonia Opera House Performing Arts Center, who was recently named the 2020 Western New York Arts Organization of the Year in the 7th Annual Arts Services Initiative of Western New York Sports Awards Competition. Fredonia is so proud of the achievements of the Opera House and its wonderful executive director, Rick Davis, staff, and board, who all work tirelessly to provide quality entertainment through its variety of programming. Congratulations on a wonderful honor that is so well deserved. I want to congratulate Amanda Pakanowski, a Fredonia middle school teacher who recently was awarded the Outstanding Teacher Award from the New York State Association for Computers and Technologies in Education. Congratulations on a great award. Make Fredonia proud. Recently, I met with SUNY Fredonia President Stephen Colliston. We discussed collaboration opportunities, COVID-19, and other topics. Look forward to continuing our relationship between the Village of Fredonia, the college, and the city of Dunkirk. I know we can do some great things. I'm planning a meeting with our new Fredonia Central School Superintendent, Dr. Bradley Ziliaks. Looking forward to introducing myself and welcoming him to Fredonia. We went over the flushing, the systematic flushing of hydrants that will be taking place, and just remind people that there might still be some cloudiness during this period, and we appreciate your patience, and thank you for that. 3,500 pounds of food was collected for Feeding Fredonia Challenge. This is an amazing feat, and I want to thank all of those who participated to help stock the local food pantry. I would also like to maybe in the very near future have a small tree lighting ceremony for our Christmas tree in the gazebo. It might be a Facebook Live, I'm not sure. I don't want to create an event that would be in violation of state mandates or endanger anyone's health, so this might not be a public event, but I want to hold something in the near future for that so that we can continue to put up our Christmas decorations and make it festive in the village. And I would like to continue to remind, I would like to see the board appoint someone to fill the vacant trustee position vacated by the passing of Trustee Pecos. Hopefully by the first of the year, I believe we need to do that. And I want the board to appoint someone who will best fill Roger's shoes and be a good addition to the board. So that is all I have. We'll move on to Trustee Christina.
I don't have any reports at this time. I'd just like to say that several years ago, I discussed the possibility of eliminating parking meters downtown. I think it's a hindrance and it, might prevent people from stopping, putting money in the meter. If we didn't have parking meters, I think it would help business. However, when we discuss this, it is a form of revenue for the village, but I think that's something that we should consider discussing in the future. And beyond that, I do not have any other reports tonight.
What is your thought on possibly eliminating the parking meters for the month of December to help small businesses in downtown Fredonia?
If it, well, maybe we need to talk to Alyssa about that in terms of the budget, but I would be in favor of that.
Anything else, Trustee Christine?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. Trustee Linden.
I don't have any reports tonight.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Britz.
First of all, I'd like to thank Joanne and Don Mansfield. They're going to be donating the tree this year to the gazebo, and I would ask that the DPW provide the stand for us. And it also looks like they would like to have myself pick it up tomorrow and place it in the gazebo. So if the DPW can work with me tomorrow on getting the stand in place, I'd appreciate that. And it looks like the Fredonia Chamber of Commerce will be decorating the tree this year. as part of their volunteer service to our community. I met with Bob Koch last Sunday regarding working on the fountains. Dan Pecos was generous enough and kind enough to find a piece of the fountain that Roger had been working with that Bob needed to start his foundation work. So I met with him on Sunday. We walked around for a couple hours and talked about different things that we're going to be doing to cast the mold. We noticed that the DPW, I'm hoping, picked up the other vase or vase that was on the western park. It looks like it's now missing, so I'm hoping the DPW picked that up and is replacing it. And Bob is going to be contacting me here shortly once he gets the mold process ready, and then I hope to document this and help people, or at least show people how this is going to be done. It's going to be quite a neat process. Again, I want to thank the DPW and their crew for responding to the water issues that we've had recently, and especially Jen down there answering all my calls from residents that needed flushing. So again, thank you for everything. And that's all I have tonight.
Well, I guess I don't have to worry about doing a tree lighting thing here because it's already taken care of. I did not know that.
Well, you can,
I would also,
I'm sorry, but you can set up some sort of choir if you'd like to and sing.
yeah, okay. I would like to thank Barb Joy with the Garden Club. They donated 2 wreaths that were put on in front of Village Hall. Thank you, Barb, and the, I guess it's the Fredonia Gardening Club. Okay, thank you, Trustee Britz, for your report. Trustee Bashaw.
Yes, I'd like to congratulate the Opera House.
You turn on your microphone, please.
Is it not? I'd like to congratulate the Opera House on their recent award. It was a wonderful thing to happen. And I'd also like just to state that I'm hoping that the conversations regarding some of these larger projects we discussed previously this evening will continue. I think it's a good thing to discuss them, and that they don't just show up in front of us in the form of a resolution. I think that it's important that we continue to learn about them and research them and talk about them. And I just hope that that continues to happen. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Reports, please. Unless, Anne Marie, do you have any report?
There were no reports this meeting, Mayor, but there is correspondence.
Okay, would you please read it, please?
Sure. This letter should have been read at the meeting November 16th. I apologize for the lateness. This is from Candy Company. Mr. Mayor and board members, it was brought to my attention last week of an article published in the Dunkirk Observer on October 21st, 2020 by Joe Ward. Not only was I upset, I was very shocked at the false content within the article that does nothing more than blemish the reputation of Candy Company, Inc., KCI. Trustee James Linden's comment as it relates to possible penalties and his quote, not completing the filter beds in a timely manner and then having an emergency was an inconvenience to the village and its users, end quote. KCI submitted a preliminary project schedule attached to this letter to the owner and engineer on March 7th, 2020, identifying most all tasks within KCI's 2A general contract. It must be understood this schedule is based upon product submittal procurement and review process as well as manufacturing and delivery of materials based on submittal approval. As you will note in original schedule, KCI had planned removal and replacement of the filter media and new wash sweeps in filters 1 and 4, only to commence on September 14th, 2020 and be complete by September 24th, 2020. Candy actually received an offloaded filter media and equipment on September 10th and 11th and started replacement of media in filter 1 on September 14th per original schedule with completion of both filters, 1 and 4, and back into service by September 21st, 2020. During the media replacement of filters 1 and 4, the water treatment facility was encountering substandard turbidity readings that ultimately made the village enact a boil water alert to community, which put water treatment facility into a state of emergency. KCI was approached on September 14th by facility not only work overtime and the weekend to expedite completion of filter media and filters. We were also asked to provide a change cost to change out the media in remaining filters number 2 and 3 that are not in the original contract. At request of the facility, I expedited filter media to site and followed with formal change proposal on September 17th to change out the media in the additional 2 filters. KCI was able to complete media replacement of 3 filters by day's end, Sunday, September 20th, 2020, still within the original schedule for 2. KCI was planning on completing the last filter the week of Monday, September 21st. However, we were directed by facility that we could not do the last filter due to the current state of treatment facility and was asked to demobilize. KCI, knowing we would burden some demobilization impact costs, willingly demobilized site and waited for direction from facility to return and do the last filter, which did take place on October 13th. As per the comment by Mr. Linden, wondering if the village should receive compensation for the delays by the contractor for, quote, putting that contract off now, we are being asked to delay it even further into springtime without penalties. I find that to be unjust dealings with this project. I think we should hold the contractor to the original agreement, end quote. I asked the board and Mr. Linden to review the original schedule again. KCI had full intentions to complete this project by the end of 2020. However, during multiple discussions with treatment facility operator and DPW superintendent, they had major concerns about KCI taking down 1 clarifier at a time to remove and replace with the new equipment during cold weather months identified on schedule, afraid that it is common to have large water main breaks during the winter months that would seriously compromise the treatment facility's production of treated water capacity. Again, KCI willingly accepted the owner's request and agreed to extend the contract until mid-April 2021 and was issued a formal change order for this extension on September 11, 2020. As far as delay costs requested above, KCI is the one who should be receiving compensation for delay and extension costs. However, at this time, we are not jumping to any delay extension costs as we are entitled to until we are certain of the delay impact costs we may have to burden, if any. Mayor Doug Essex comments on the clarifiers are partially correct. The existing Vineyard Drive pump station is required to be operational and provide backup water source from the city of Dunkirk. KCI is contractually complete with the pump station. However, there are some issues with electrical control and wiring that are currently being addressed by the engineer and electrical prime contractor. At this time, I'm not aware of any impacts or delays to KCI created by the current pandemic. I'm not going to say there may be future impacts due to current pandemic. I would like Mayor Essex, Mr. Linden, and board members to understand the phenomenal professional working relationship KCI has been proud to have with the water treatment facility, the DPW, engineering firm, and electrical prime contract personnel. We have worked together thus far like true professionals to address project issues and concerns, including scheduling to accommodate facility operations and do what was needed to overcome these issues in a timely fashion. Unfortunately, I don't feel all the parties addressed in this letter have a full understanding of what has transpired on this project since March 2020 and what KCI has done above and beyond to assist with handling these issues at the direction of the treatment facility and the DPW with no questions asked. I request that you contact those individuals to verify my comments within. In further, due to lack of project meetings that are not KCI's responsibility to perform and what I see is misguided information obtained, I request that all addressed above contact either myself or the engineering firm to understand project details, and if required, I certainly have no issue with face-to-face meetings in the future with all involved to discuss in depth. KCI will continue in the same fashion as we have to complete this project per a revised schedule and completion date. KCI will be forwarding this letter to Joe Ward and the Dunkirk Observer asking that the original article of October 21st, 2020 be redacted, corrected, and republished. This will hopefully remove the false allocations and blemish of the high standards reputation Candy Company, Inc. is proud to have maintained for over 35 years. Sincerely, Candy Company, Incorporated, Richard A. Roberts, Jr., Project Manager. That is the only letter I have for correspondence.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, if I may, it's Tony. Those people have been exemplary in performing all the things that were outlined very articulately in that letter. This project has been overwhelming, and the Candy Corporation stepped to the plate under Paul Snyder's guidance with the emergency proclamation to do 2 more filter bed renovations. What really I want you all to understand is they worked with Chris Sermon and I, Jerry Falco, and so forth. The engineers are the ones that drive the project. And we are still at a point right now where the engineers are leaving us in a flux. We can't get the Vineyard Drive pump station to communicate to the plant properly. Candy has performed their mechanical work, you know, to the point of the contract. But on the record, this is not on Candy Corporation. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's move on to resolutions, please.
Whereas the agreement with the Pomfret Water District requires village approval for all new water services, and whereas the town of Pomfret has received and officially approved the application of a residential water service at 9773 Route 60, now therefore be it resolved, the village of Fredonia hereby approves the residential water service connection at 9773 Route 60 in Fredonia, New York.
Second.
For a motion and a second, any further discussion? Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Britz?
Yes.
Trustee Bashaw?
Yes.
Carried. We're gonna table this fire department H&K resolution, table that?
I actually need a trustee and a second to table something.
Okay,
What was that one?
this was,
You're up.
The brickwork for the fire hall,
Are we what are we talking about tabling?
Because Tony thinks he can do it.
Oh,
I need a motion and a second to table that resolution.
I move to table it until we find further information from Tony.
I'll second it.
Thank
A
you.
motion and a second. Do I need to vote on that?
Yes.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
aye.
Trustee Britz?
Yes.
Trustee Bashaw?
Yes.
Carried.
Be it resolved that firefighter Timothy Winters is hereby appointed to the position of fire lieutenant with the Village of Fredonia Fire Department effective December 1st, 2020, at a rate of $34.90 per hour, and will serve a probationary term of 6 months in compliance with all applicable civil service rules and regulations.
I second that.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Britz?
I'm going to vote for it, but under protest.
That's a yes.
That's a yes.
Trustee Bashaw?
I too am saying yes under protest.
Carried.
Be it resolved that firefighter Ben Syracuse is hereby appointed provisionally to the position of fire lieutenant with the Village of Fredonia Fire Department effective December 1st, 2020, at a rate of $33.85 per hour in compliance with all applicable civil service rules and regulations.
Have a second, please.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Britz?
I'll vote yes under protest again.
Okay, Trustee Bashaw?
And I too, yes under protest.
Okay, carried.
care
We
of.
we have one more here, and this was, we should have, I probably had this on last week or brought up for new discussion here. It's the place decorations on the, a National Grid streetlight pole downtown. This is a walk-in resolution here. We forgot to get it going, but if we don't get it going now, we're not gonna get the decorations up. So.
I can read it if you'd like.
No. Kara, do you
Whereas the
have-
village intends to place decorations on certain National Grid streetlight poles, and whereas National Grid has requested as a certain condition that the village provided necessary proof of insurance and sign an indemnification agreement. Now therefore be it resolved that the village provide proof of insurance, and the mayor is hereby authorized to sign on behalf of the village of Fredonia an indemnification agreement to National Grid for all liability arising from the attachment, maintenance, or removal of the decorations, and be it further resolved that upon approval from National Grid, the Streets Department is hereby authorized to place Christmas decorations on said streetlight pole.
I second that.
Okay, there's been a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Trustee Pina,
Yes.
trustee Linden,
Aye.
trustee Brits.
Yes.
Trustee Bashaw.
Yes.
Carried. Any further business for the good of the order?
I hereby make a motion to enter into executive session again to discuss the employment history of a particular person's leading to an appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, disciplinary suspension, or removal of a particular person.
I second that.
Motion, a second to enter into executive session. Trustee Christina,
Yes.
trustee Linden,
I don't know what this pertains to, but yes.
okay, trustee Brits,
Yes.
trustee Bashaw.
Yes.
And do we need any department heads to be present, trustee Brits?
I would like Attorney Guard to be present for this one.
Anybody else not? Okay. Chip, can you handle that? Ken, please. Let me know when you're ready.